We got those jobs numbers at the end of the week on Friday. They were significantly better than expected, although there were some downward revisions for the prior month. At the same time, ISM numbers came in a little softer. What do you make of these jobs numbers, and particularly perhaps the wage numbers?
David, look, I think we're in the same kind of pattern we've been in for some time. As of right now, the economy looks pretty strong, and inflation looks relatively under control. But there's a lot going on underneath the surface, and there are still substantial risks. I'm sticking with my three scenarios paradigm. Some risk of a downturn. We still keep not seeing it at all in the employment numbers. In the data on GDP, there's this big gap between total income and total output that makes things hard to read. And there's some worrying developments, some of the business surveys like that ISM, and in some of the credit data. So I think it's possible that the economy will go into recession in delayed response to monetary policy. That looks less likely to me than I might have thought some months ago. It's certainly increasingly possible that we'll have that much ballyhooed soft landing, as rare as those have been historically. And I think there's a risk that people are still underestimating, given the very worrisome fiscal prospect of the country, given the recent easing, quite substantial in financial conditions, given still tight, and the wage numbers, again, are not running right now. Today's number not running at a rate that's consistent with the 2% inflation target, given the uncertainties in geopolitics that could point to problems in supply chains. My gut is still that the market is underestimating the inflation risks in the current situation, and therefore probably overestimating the amount of Fed cutting that is going to take place. But it's a fairly close call, and the Fed is certainly doing the right thing by being entirely vigilant and signaling that it is very much going to be data dependent going forward right here. I do read the continued strength of the economy in the face of what's happened to rates as suggesting either that the neutral rate has risen substantially, or as suggesting that the economy is less sensitive to interest rates than we might have thought. Either one of those considerations would suggest a bit less urgency to rate cutting than many people suppose at the current moment. But look, I think the Fed is signaling determination with respect to inflation, is signaling a willingness to watch the data very closely, and I think that's, broadly speaking, where they should be.
Larry, we had a major development in something that you've talked about on this program more than once, and that is at Harvard, where you are a tenured professor, were president there, but more generally at college campuses, that we saw the resignation of Claudine Gay from Harvard as president. I wonder what you make of it now that we're getting perhaps somewhat past the worst of the conflict. What are the larger lessons we should learn? What can be done in terms of reformation by the universities or otherwise?
David, I think this is a time of testing for universities, certainly unlike any other, certainly since the Vietnam War period, and perhaps even going beyond that. Some of our leading universities are under investigation, both from Republicans in the House of Representatives and from the Education Department of the Biden administration. You're seeing a degree of divisiveness on campus that I haven't seen since I first got to the Harvard campus in 1975. So I think there's going to be a very profound challenge of finding a vital center. Universities must stand up to some of the vitriolic forces on the populist right that seem to be in favor of everything up to book burning in support of enforcing some very particularistic vision on universities. At the same time, I don't think there's any question that they have been threatened from within by stifling orthodoxies that have led to the cancellation of speakers, that have led to people being discomforted by discussing issues like crime, like education, except in particular prescribed ways. And it's going to be the challenge of university leaders to find a way between those twin abhorrent poles. I have to say that this goes way beyond any individual. I think universities have, in many cases, including at Harvard, been failed by their trustees. At Harvard, we call the group the corporation. And in many ways, it is their job, above all, to maintain a healthy interface between the university and the broader society.